So tonight we are here to talk about the future of Bassick and Bridgeport Military Academy. And I'm presenting on behalf of the Bridgeport Board of Education. And our objectives tonight are very simple, to clearly state the facts as we know them regarding the building of the new Bassick High School, provide answers to some of the questions that were submitted in the question portal, and to take new questions and testimonials from stakeholders. I'm asking that while we're here tonight, during the presentation, we uphold the following expectations for behavior. Be respectful of presenters and individuals speaking. Remain quiet so all parties can hear the information being presented. Be mindful that we do not have all information and are not prepared to discuss all inquiries because the previous administration who was responsible for making decisions are no longer a part of BPS. So what do we know? On May 10th, 2021, the Board of Education approved revised educational specifications for Bassick High School by a 6-1 vote. The plan for the BMA Bassick collaboration and its site is currently approved. The revised education specifications included increased enrollment from 1,006 students to 1,250. The enrollment increase created an opportunity for the budget of the project to increase from $115 million to $124 million. Please note that the size of newly constructed high schools are dependent on the enrollment. For each student, the building is allocated 181 square feet for construction. The old Bassick site was on 7 acres and did not have enough space for an outdoor recreational fields. The new site must have at least 9.5 acres. The combination soccer football field will be equipped with a spectator seating area. The building will have 4 floors. The first floor will consist of an auditorium, the gymnasium, main administrative offices, the cafeteria, kitchen, health services, mechanical rooms, automated garage, locker rooms, and other support spaces. The remaining 3 floors will contain classroom space and offices. The bus drop-off will be in the front of the building and a parking lot equipped to hold 154 cars. There was an environmental site investigation that was conducted by Diversified Technology Consultants in November 2020. The purpose was to conduct a phase 1 environmental site assessment in August 2020, which identified areas of concern at the site. Based on the results of the phase 1 and proposed site improvements, DTC conducted an environmental investigation within the areas of anticipated excavation activities. The purpose of the Phase 2 ESI was to verify the absence or presence and location of subsurface contaminations and to assess the potential pollutant impacts that may be encountered during proposed construction activities. DTC conducted a Phase 2 ASI site in the areas of anticipated excavation activities for the proposed site building and development. The results of the new environmental investigation indicated that fill material is present throughout the site containing PHAs at concentrations exceeding the RDEC. The remediation standard regulations provided exemptions from compliance with the PMC for polluted fill, which would apply to this site. The RSRs also allow of the reuse of polluted soil in accordance with certain requirements for reuse of the material. Given the nature of the contaminants and proposed redevelopment of the site, reuse of this material in accordance with the RSRs is recommended provided the material is structurally suitable by the engineer. Contaminants of concern were not detected in groundwater samples collected from the site at concentrations that will require controlled management of dewatering fluids other than normal construction best management practices. In addition, the existing monitoring wells at the site should be abandoned in accordance with applicable regulations. There was also a traffic study conducted in March 2022. To evaluate the quality of traffic operation in the vicinity of the new school, the following signalized and unsignalized intersections were analyzed for the study: Railroad Avenue, North and South in Lafayette Street and Gregory Street, Park Avenue and Gregory Street, Broad Street and University Avenue, Park Avenue and Atlantic Street, Park Avenue and Linden Avenue, Atlantic Street and Lafayette Street, Atlantic Street and Broad Street, Linden Avenue and Myrtle Avenue, Linden Avenue and Broad Street, and site driveway locations on Broad Street and Linden Avenue. Traffic volumes for existing intersections were collected during peak school hours in February and May of 2021. The peak hour volumes for Broad Street south of Railroad Avenue were compared with 2019 data for this location and compiled by the Connecticut DOT. The traffic counts were adjusted as follows to match the pre-pandemic peak summer month value. Conclusions: area traffic operations was analyzed for the new Bassett High School under 2021 existing and 2024 no build and build traffic conditions. When the school construction is completed, acceptable LOS D or better will be maintained in most area intersections and at all school driveways. The new school is expected to produce limited traffic impact on school areas. Bassett High School currently is planned to have distinct academies, inclusive of aviation, auto, and a manufacturing academy, architecture, construction, and engineering academy. Under that, it will be construction trades, architecture, and pre-engineering. There will also be a fine arts academy with theater, studio arts, and music/band. The Bridgeport Military Academy, whose mantra is service to others above self, is a small school atmosphere and highly structured school culture. BMA also has distinct pathways. This is inclusive of military with the Navy Junior ROTC, first responders, which is inclusive of fire science, EMT, and EMS. This slide here was provided to me by our current principal, Ms. Soares, and this depicts all the different pathways that BMA currently has. It has the military pathway listed up top, the Bridgeport, and then the first responder pathway. It talks specifically about the naval science and the different pieces that are important to that, which is naval knowledge and naval orientation. EMA science, which has integrated fire science, forensic science, and homeland security. Underneath this umbrella, emergency management and intelligence studies. Naval Science 2 has maritime history and nautical science and communication for public safety, civil, and air patrol. And Naval Science 1 has the Cedar Field Manual, which is applicable to the Navy Junior ROTC. There's several tiers, inclusive of content language that is there, which is your Tier 1 English courses, which is inclusive of your English 9, English 10, 11, and 12, AP English Language and Composition, and AP English Literature and Composition. Tier 1 Social Studies courses include World Civilization, Civics, Perspectives on Race, U.S. History, and AP U.S. History. Tier 1 Mathematics courses include Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Probability and Statistics, Pre-Calculus, and Calculus. Tier 1 Science courses, Physical Science, Biology, Chemistry, Environmental Science, and AP Environmental Science. And then general electives, Spanish 1, Spanish 2 and 3, Studio Arts 1 and 2, Health, and Physical Education. So what makes BMA unique? Aside from the Navy Junior ROTC program, there are specific qualifications that students have to be engaged in to be a part of this program, which include a unique uniform that reflects the Naval Command. Navy furnished property, which is paid for by the Navy and must be stored in a secure site. Any damages incurred to said furniture will result in district liability. Dedicated office space, classrooms, storage, telephone services, and instructional supplies. Each host school, which BMA is one of, must establish a 3 to 4 year naval science curriculum consisting of at least the number of minutes of instructional per naval science course, which is 7,200 minutes. In addition to the Navy Junior ROTC, BMA is also considered unique for its whole school formation, which takes place daily at the beginning of the day. Mandatory week-long boot camp during the summer before school starts. It's an open choice school, and it receives students from 9 surrounding districts. It recruits from schools within the district, specifically 36 elementaries. The Navy Junior ROTC performs at various community events, like our local graduation ceremonies, parades, and convocation for Bridgeport Public Schools. All students are required to wear prescribed uniform, comply with Navy Junior ROTC grooming standards, and maintain acceptable standards of conduct, scholastic achievement, and physical fitness. So what we have done, both of our principals who are here tonight, Diana Swords, who's principal of Bridgeport Military Academy, as well as Dr. Joe Raiola, who's principal of Bassett, met with both BMA and Bassett teachers on Wednesday, February 1st, to discuss their concerns and how they can begin to work together to create a working vision for the 2 school communities. This came after we had 2 separate meetings just with administration. One of the things that was very, very important to Ms. Swords as well as Dr. Raiola is to be able to work collaboratively together. Ms. Swords was a strong advocate for making sure her voice and the voice of her community was heard. And she felt slighted in that. So that was one of the most important things that we have started doing at this current juncture. With us tonight, we have people from our school building committee update. Ms. Otero, please forgive me for putting your name up here wrong. Ms. Michelle Otero and Mr. Larry Schilling are here, as well as some of the architects for Peak and Eastman Architects. I'm asking that they come forward.
Switch it. Are we done with this? This is from 17 to 23. I don't know if it is. What's he doing? I don't know what he's doing.
Hi, my name is Anthony Stark, and I'm a senior associate project manager with Perkins Eastman Architects. I'm going to give you another little walkthrough through the school plans.
Where is it? Is it? Yeah, have the one thing.
Go to the next slide.
Yep.
So this is the first floor. To orient you, this is Broad Street. And this is University Avenue. We'll see a little bit later, to the south is the park and the sound. So all students will be dropped off at buses here in front of the school, and all entry will be into the building through this vestibule. Off of this main lobby is access to the gymnasium. Going straight through, you can access the cafeteria. There's also a connection to the auditorium in the back. This area here is mostly administrative. There's an area for the nurse and the health staff. And then in the back is music and band classrooms. Over to the right, to the left in the back, we have the auto shop, the wood shop, and the advanced manufacturing classrooms. We have locker rooms for the gymnasium and the athletics. There's the aeronautical classroom, an HVAC tech classroom, and then this is again more back of house janitorial and mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all that services for the building. Next slide. You can take any of the three stairways up to every floor. On the second floor, there is the media center in the lower corner, and then classrooms up to the north. There's a corridor here that looks out onto the lobby. You can look into the cafeteria. There's a solid wall with windows there. And then these are the first of our three art classrooms on the second floor. And then the architecture and engineering and electrical labs. And there is one classroom here that we've currently allocated to BMA space. Next slide. Again, going up that stairwell, we've allocated these 9 classrooms plus the one downstairs for BMA. There's the office, main administrative office for BMA. And then next to that, we have another 3 science classrooms. You come down the hallway is most of the toilet room facilities, additional classrooms on each wing. Special education, life skills are located in this west wing as well. Next slide. And then finally, the 4th floor, again, classrooms up and down each wing. The 3 stairs are accessed, and the toilet rooms are in the same location. And again, there's another 3 large science classrooms, mainly dedicated to chemistry and other courses, and additional classrooms here at the end. Next slide, please. So this is the overall site plan. Again, Broad Street running north and south and down the page. University Avenue running east and west. This will be completely closed and it'll just be a walking promenade. We anticipate the buses will come in off of Lafayette, turn in, drop the students off here in front of the school. Everybody will walk up to the main entrance, and then the buses will leave. Parents can come down Broad Street, turn into the parking lot, drop students off here at the north end of the lot, and then leave either back out on the Broad Street or down onto Linders. Again, this is the athletic field, and the bleachers are here. Next slide. This is just one of the renderings, the view of how the exterior of the school is going to look, and this is again the main entrance here, and the bus loop along Broad Street. And again, as I said, the open space for University Avenue, that will be all pedestrian. Next slide. And that's it. Can you go back to the site plan, site plan? One more back. Great. So as we stated, there's residential to the north of here. There is the UB campus or new college here. Actually, there's a building to the south as well. The park is all down around here, and then the sound is further south. Currently, we have, I guess, I'll turn it over to you, Larry, to talk about the status of the project.
Is there a Q&A on the bus route there? Are you having a Q&A session on the bus route?
No, I don't believe they established bus routes yet.
Well, I mean, as far as like the logistics of how the buses come down, and how they go around.
I mean, the school district has to still decide the exact bus routes, but we anticipate that buses will come along Atlantic, turn down Lafayette, and come into the back of the school and, you know, drop students off here along the front of the school. In the afternoon, it'll be similar, as we understand it, not all school buses are gonna be present in the afternoon, right at the drop-off time. The special education classes have an earlier departure, and the BMA, I think, also has an earlier departure. Anticipated right now. And then again, all the school buses have to leave. They're not allowed to turn left. They can only turn right and go down Broad Street.
My name is Larry Shelley. I'm program manager for school construction program. Where we stand in the process right now is we're waiting for final sign off from the EEP on the flood management certification. They gave us initial approval back in 2021, but they wanted to give us final calculations when we had the final design. After they reviewed it, when I talked to them last week, they'll be giving us a sign off any day now. Again, there were questions and concerns about runoff. One of the conditions from DEP is that we would not install any additional impervious material beyond what was there when they purchased the site. We have reduced the amount of impervious based on this design by 10%. The infiltration will take a 25-year flood event. The traffic study has been submitted to the Office of State Traffic Control, and they're doing their administrative review right now, and we should have that sign off within 3 weeks. The project has been bid. We received bids. We have a small budget issue which we're resolving right now, and we're hoping by mid-March to start construction. Concurrently, we're also working through the process with the city to obtain the building permit. We're halfway through that process, and I'm hoping within a month we will get that signed. We are targeting completion of the project for the August 2025 date for the opening of school. And that's where we stand right now.
If you have a question that's specific to any of our architects or this committee, could you please come forward to the mic and ask them at this time?
Good evening. I have a question. If we could go back to the rendering of the building, there seems to be a lot of glass. And I know why, obviously, you're overlooking Long Island Sound, you're in a beautiful historical park. But, you know, we do have climate change and we do experience hurricanes in Bridgeport. So I'd like to know, I mean, that's a lot of glass. Can you speak to the safety of that, if there's a hurricane or something else, and what the strength is of this? This is a large amount of glass.
So we are outside of the zone that requires the reinforced glazing for the hurricane impact resistance. But I mean, the glass panels are significantly strong. We have security glazing on the building. And the glass panels are interrupted with the precast brick panels in between different areas, but there's, sufficient light in between each classroom to give each classroom daylighting, and there's active windows to allow for fresh air. And the whole building's been designed to meet LEED Gold certification, so it's energy efficient in that manner.
So I know you just said you're right outside the zone that requires probably the greatest.
It's we're outside, so.
You are outside the zone,
Yeah.
okay. So if there was a hurricane, how much impact can all of this glass handle? Like with.
Well, it's not anticipated to get like large projectiles, but again, it's outside the zone, and there wouldn't be any students anywhere near the school if there was. It's not an emergency shelter. It wasn't designed for that type of.
Okay, and then I have a second question. When you were going through the individual floor plans, it looks like the first floor is pretty much general common areas. The second floor seemed like it was pretty much all for Bassett students, but for some reason you have one classroom for BMA on the second floor. Is that correct or third?
So, yeah, I mean, currently on the plans, we have a classroom labeled on the second floor as the 10th classroom for BMA. It's up to the school to decide exactly which classrooms.
I just find that a little odd that you have an entire floor and one BMA classroom is mixed in with the Bassett student body.
Yeah, on that
And then-
floor,
And then you go to the third floor, right? It looks to me like that's all BMA. If I'm okay, and then you go back to the fourth floor, and then it looks like general classrooms for Bassett. Am I mistaken?
Yeah,
No,
well,
that's correct.
Yeah,
Okay, for both schools?
however they want.
Okay,
How about volume?
okay. And then I know that a lot of BMA classrooms, I've taken a tour, and I love Ms. Soar. She's an amazing principal. She was my daughter's principal. She's an amazing principal. I love her. So my question is, I know that they have these very large classrooms at BMA, which are no desks. They're just like the forensics. It's set up like a crime scene. You have a simulator, and those are not classrooms with tables and chairs where there's, a lot of instruction on, you know what I mean? Nobody's opening up the textbooks really there. And I'd just like to know, are those classes, are their sizes being reduced? I've heard some complaints and concerns from BMA staff. Is concerned about what the amount of space that's been allocated to BMA. You might want to go to the mic.
I know at first there was a concern about the 8 classrooms that were originally designated. We did find 2 additional classrooms to designate for BMA space. That's why we kind of saw that one lingering one, which I think we're going to move anyway. With regards to those specialty locations like the ambulance room, we're actually between Dr. Rayola and Ms. Torres, we're trying to figure out, identify spaces on the first floor where we can set those up accordingly so that they have enough room for the programs that they do. It's kind of a collective that we're just trying to identify spaces.
So now that you have the one class on the second floor, that's BMA, and now you're saying you're gonna bring some BMA classes down to the first floor.
Only with regards to the big things. like
Yeah, I
the
know, they're very big classrooms, they're very big, and I get concerned about that. I feel like, there should be more clear and distinct separation. I know you want to have the kids come together in the auditorium and, maybe the cafeteria, but I just think that could be, it could complicate learning for students, you know what I mean? I think it should just be more clear cut and concise, and the space clearly, that's just my thought.
Yeah, like I said, we're trying to work through that program again.
And climate change is real. Look at us, we haven't had any snow this year. Climate change is real, and I do get concerned, and you might think, well, the students will never be there with the hurricane coming. But there is a cost to taxpayers when there's massive amounts of damage. So I just want to raise that as well. Thank you.
The cost of the impact resistant glazing is also a significant increase in cost as well.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tammy Boyle. I am the past PTSO president from Bridgeport Military Academy. I've spent many, many days in Bridgeport Military Academy, and the current building that we have right now, I believe, has 28 classrooms. My question is how do you plan on downgrading from 28 classrooms to maybe 8 or 9? What it looks like right now is you're just looking for extra space in a building to fulfill what we have at BMA currently now. My question would be, BMA students have formation. Formation usually happens in the gym, first period of the thing. First period, basic students will be having gym. So where would this formation be taking place? It looks like, from the design and from what I'm hearing, is basically what's going to happen is BMA is going to be integrated with basic students, which is unacceptable. BMA is its own institution. It has its own building. It has its own rules. It has its own goal. Integrating BMA students with basic students is a very big mistake. You think bullying now is a big problem? BMA students are held to very, very high standard as far as uniform, from head to toe, hair, jewelry, everything. How do you think these BMA students are going to feel walking in the hallways with basic students when they're not held to any standards? They walk around hoodies on, hats on, pants sagging. They walk around the building like they want to. You need to, if it's going to be in the same building, which I think is a totally different mistake, they need their own building, they need their own program. To combine it is ridiculous. It's taking away from what BMA really is. What BMA really is in Bridgeport is one of our top high schools. We have the top graduating rate. We have the top attendance rate. Our kids want to come to school. We're not perfect. We weren't perfect, but we're pretty good to what we need to be in Bridgeport. BMA was a school of choice. I chose not to send my child to Passaic, which would have been my district school. Best decision I ever made in my life. One of my children was a problem child, behavioral student. If BMA didn't exist in the structure that they had in that building, my son probably would have been in jail or dead at this point. You are taking a choice from children that they deserve in Bridgeport, not even in Bridgeport, because we go outside the district. We have a lottery now that we built up through the years to where we almost doubled them. We have a lottery of almost 500 and something. Where are you going to fit 500 students in a building with 10 classrooms? You're going to have BMA students, full uniform, Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, it's formal day. They will shoot from head to toe. Can you imagine these kids walking around Bassett High School? The intimidation, the harassment that they're going to be getting from regular kids walking around and having hoodies and pants down and sagging down? You're making a mistake and you're robbing the kids. There's no way that you're going to stick unless you completely design one whole floor to just BMA, which we tried that and Fairchild Whitman. It didn't work. They didn't want us there. They did wasn't because of the rigorous stuff that BMA does. So this is a total mistake, and it's robbing the children of an education that they wouldn't get prior in Bridgeport. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Charles McNeil. I have a question regarding the last slide, the traffic flow. The buses coming into the street, yes. Okay, I just want to give you a little bit of background about Lafayette Street. I live on Lafayette Street. So I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of residents that live there, also residents that live in the law firm on Lafayette Street. You mentioned the traffic study. So I remember going to the city requesting a stop sign in Gregory and Lafayette, in which a traffic study was performed. And they did not approve putting a stop sign on that corner. Now, this area definitely, we have a problem with excessive speeding. Lafayette Street is a very narrow street. If it's a two-way street, and if you're parked in your car and you have vehicles traveling simultaneously in both directions, you can very well get hit by a car, or have your door locked, or be getting out of your car. So it is a safety issue as far as public safety with the traffic conditions. So now we're talking about bringing school buses down Lafayette Street as well. So I'm curious as far as the method of that traffic study, because at one point Lafayette can seem like it's a very quiet street, which it is, but during peak times, we do have a daycare, ABCD, which is there. And I think not only residents, but parents can agree that parking can be a challenge on that street. And we've had at least, I would say, 2 to 4 accidents a year on the corner of Gregory and Lafayette Street. And we still haven't been able to get a stop sign. So now we're talking about bringing in these buses, but don't forget that this area, you have the amphitheater, you have the ferry, you have 3 churches surrounding Lafayette Street. There's midweek services, there's Sunday services, there's performances that goes on, there's overflow parking that comes into the community. So we see a lot of traffic going on there all the time. So I'm curious as far as the method of the traffic study, and whether or not if there's another alternative to the traffic flow, whether the buses come down in the morning, then you go out through either the park side and then come up by Renaissance, or go up around to Sikorsky. You know, I'm looking for solutions. How can we alleviate this area being inundated with so many buses? And, you know, we have a narrow street, so we gotta go back to the table and look at that.
I understand that. What we put out there is kind of preliminary. That's how we initially saw traffic kind of flowing through. It doesn't mean that it's going to be exactly what it is. We work very closely with the engineering department, and that was also their concern. So we're still trying to kind of work through those things. And because we don't know what it's going to be like as far as where the buses are coming from, period, we don't know the route yet, so, you know, we can't really say how it's all going to work out. But it's definitely something we've been doing.
Okay, all I ask is that when you have these meetings, that you have residents present, just to give you guys some insight on what we see every day during different activities and during different times of the day. So, I mean, the school is great. I mean, I would prefer it to be somewhere else because of all the traffic, but I see that there's a need for it. I mean, you know, I'm happy for the kids to have a new building, but we can't overlook the traffic flow and make sure that it's safe, primarily for residents as well as people passing through.
And when we send it to the state, they do their own review. And on other projects, we have to do it on all projects. They have come back with cheaper police to here to traffic, the center, at the meantime. So, again, in 3 weeks, we'll have their input for the project.
I can speak to that as far as amphitheater traffic, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
So that's all. I mean, I'll leave my name with someone as far as when these meetings occur, the building committee, I'll reach out to the board of ed, I'll email.
Before I leave.
Thank you.
I want to talk about athletics. I'm former alumni from Bassett High School, class of '85. I see that there's a football field, but it's also used for University of Bridgeport, their sports. Where is the team going to practice when you have a university that has multiple sports? How are they going to be able to use that field for practice? Are they going to go all the way to Seaside, come back, or are they going to use the same field? Because right now, there's a problem with Seaside 1. That was built by the University of Bridgeport, parts of the city of Bridgeport. But there's always a controversy when UB is in season, you cannot touch that field until after 5:30 at night. Our kids are already gone at night. So that field right there, the baseball field, is that going to be part of Bassett too?
So that field that you're looking at right there, leased to the Board of Education. Right now, we do have an agreement of sorts with UB that they can use it kind of as needed, and however that schedule works out, as you know, through the BOE. Nonetheless, when Bassick is built, that is Bassick's field. So Bassick is priority.
We're even changing the logo in the center of the field.
Yeah.
So why is it called Mansfield instead of Bassett Lines?
That's just the stage, correct.
Thank you.
It's just a reference point.
Hi. I have some follow-up questions related to what was said during the presentation and in response to some of the questions. So one of them was just a clarifying question on, can you explain clearly, minimal jargon, what does it mean to be outside of the realm of needing reinforced glass? Like what exactly?
Yeah, there's calculations that we do depending on how far you are from the water, wind speeds, and various other things that are calculated into it, and it determines whether or not the original zone needs to have a hurricane.
What type of storms, like what storm degree does that account for?
I mean, that usually falls anything over 130 miles per hour wind.
Okay, what is that relative to Hurricane Sandy?
I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, like 100.
Okay. Larry, at one point you referenced something about a 25-year flood event. What was, I'm just asking a clarifying question.
The infiltration system that's being installed on the north end of the site to help contain stormwater
To a catch basin?
it's not a catch basin, it's underground, it's kind of like a dry well. Any of the water runoff on the north end of the site will go into that system, stay there until it seeps back. So that'll handle, well, there's 5, 10, 25, 100-year, 500-year storms. The capacity water that we anticipate in that time frame will be held within the retention system, so it will be run off to the adjacent neighborhood.
So I feel as though I'm curious about how that infrastructure interacts with the current issue with CSO or combined sewer overflows. I know that I was told that there is updated infrastructure being put in place currently to address the combined sewer overflow issue. How does that interact with the current plan?
Right now, we're removing a couple of pipes that are there now that are combined with storms. The city is putting in separate storm and sewer lines, and the drainage system would tie into the storm lines, but again, like a regular rain, it'll all go into the detention system, back into the ground before it overflows and goes into the storm system. So it would have to be a tremendous storm, like over 100-year quantity, like.
Yeah, but that's just Hurricane Sandy. You know what I mean? Like Hurricane Sandy was a 262-year storm, and that's the area is still in recovery, right? So kind of in relation to that, I'm curious because I hear mixed information about this. Do you all have a formal and accurate update as to whether or not Resilient Bridgeport is being constructed or when it will be constructed? I've been told that it's not. I've also been told that you have until 2025 to build it, otherwise the city loses money that was allocated from the federal government. So I'm curious about the status of that.
Yeah, we're not, we've been working with them, but we're not in charge of that program, so we can't give an update where they're at.
I don't know the specific time of where their schedule is on the start time. I think we were kind of hoping to get them 1 year that could speak on that process.
So I understand that like legally you might not be allowed to speak on behalf of them, but if you're trying to construct it by August 2025, how could you not be aware of their construction plans if it would have to happen in tandem?
So we actually designed the whole project to work with the Bridgeport residency plan in time. We shared plans and so, but we don't, at this time, we have no idea what we're going to do.
they're behind schedule, and you need to get a grant for more money. But the main problem we need to mention is the first floor of the building is 2 feet above the 500-meter floodplain level. So the building itself is on 500.
Okay, I have follow-up questions, but there are other people here.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you? I'm wondering, you mentioned that the city is putting in separated sewers. Where in relationship to the building are the separated sewers?
It's the standard sewer lines they have now going down the center of the streets. Lafayette, Broad Street, all the streets.
And who's funding them? Is it just the city or does it have state funds?
You can see in the street where they connected in, there.
There's new blacktop on the different areas. We've already worked on.
Small lines, some paving, there's pipes out there, they're working on the project right now.
Is there somewhere to see schematics of the sewer lines that are going in? Okay, and then the other thing that I noticed is that the school is elevated, that there's a slant, a considerable one. Are there any elevations from the north showing the height of the building in comparison to the houses?
I don't have them with me in this presentation.
All right, so if you're standing in front of your house on Broad Street, how much higher from the sidewalk? How many stories to the top of the building?
The school's already a 4-story building,
So-
and it is 10 feet above the street grade.
So it's a 4-story building, and then it's elevated like another story, another 2 stories,
10 feet.
10 feet, so that's a story. So it's like a 5-story building. Like, I mean, if you're standing on your street, it's 5 stories up,
From the street elevation.
okay, from the sidewalk. Okay, that's all I want to know, thanks.
Can I go now? Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is George Cruz. I'm the city councilman that represented this district along with my co-counsel, Tom Mack. You know, one thing I need to say about this is that I'm extremely disappointed, the whole thing. The whole thing. The way this came about, when it was my co-counsel at the time, Denise Taylor Moore, and I, we were not informed, Mr. Chillen, you know that. We were not informed of the administration plan to buy that property to build Bassett. They kept us out of the loop deliberately. Therefore, we failed our constituents in that area there because we could not notify them to demand some public meetings so you could listen to the constituents there before you even put the first pen for the graphics of the school. Instead, you guys took it upon yourself to do what you want to do along with this administration. And it's an injustice, and it's a disgrace as far as I'm concerned. The residency project was supposed to be getting kicked off. The money was approved to build the berms and the residency project along Seaside Park to avoid the flooding along that lower area where the Freeman houses are and the lower part around there. You guys just went on and built. Completely disregarded the 2 council members' input. And for us to make sure that our constituents are engaged. So here we are. Showing us the graphics. It's a beautiful school, and I'm all for the students. They have a wonderful state-of-the-art school. Absolutely, they deserve it. But building it here, without the residency project being built first, I guess, you never know. We can't predict what kind of storm is going to come down that Long Island Sound. We can't predict. You could build it 10, 15 feet high, but you never know. You can't predict the storm, the strength of the storm, how high it's going to come. You might be saying, but what about the rest of the houses around there, Lafayette Street, Broad Street, Main Street? They could be flooded. And because you guys and Joe Gannon's administration chose to push this down our throat, you're compromising the lives of the people that live in that area there. You really are. And it's a disgrace, I must say. And I'm still disappointed. Now I understand that the UB is looking for more area to build because they need more fields. They need more to build more sport fields. And I was told that they want to get the Warren building. And I said, no, hell no, you're not going to get that building. You know why? Because the whole deal buying UB and building the school there is a total disgrace and a deception to the people of the city of Bridgeport, specifically to the people in the South End, and also to the 2 council members that represent this district. You guys kept us out of the loop deliberately, kept us misinformed, and we tried to battle you, and you didn't want to hear it. Man didn't want to hear it. They went ahead with your help, the building committee, and other council members, decided to get the $6 million behind the scenes to purchase that spot there for Bassick. That's what you guys did. And Joe Gannon's administration. But listen, I just wanted to express that. I took a night off of school because I felt I needed to be here. And I'm glad that the format here today is that where you can see the face of who's asking the questions and making the comments instead of the format they have the police chief or receiving paper, questions on paper. So I'm asking that from now on, that traffic study, I would like the data. I would like to see the study as my constituent asked for and requested. He wants that study. And they demand it. Okay, he knows most of all the neighbors that live around me. And they're going to be affected. I want the study also. Me and my co-councilman Tyler Mack, we want that study. And also in the future to continue to engage with the people who live in that area there. Have community meetings, set up something to build a consensus and understanding and working collaboratively together.
Councilman Cruz, just to clarify, no one on this stage is a member of the school building committee. This is the architect. Larry is not a member of the school building committee. I could provide you a list of every meeting. Excuse me?
He wasn't in the meetings.
Yeah, we're always at the meetings. So am I.
I made my point.
I hear you.
It's not up to the people.
It is what it is. But we're, like I said, we are not voting members of the school building.
I made my point.
I just want to make 2 comments. The new school, the drainage of the new school, the stormwater filtration system is going to be a drastic improvement over the existing conditions of the 2 university buildings that used to sit on the site. So, in the parking lot. So, I know everybody's concerned about the school adding runoff to the existing area, but we're taking on exactly what falls on our site, keeping it from running off into the rest of the neighborhood. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Nyla Carter. I go to BMA. I'm a junior. I just want to ask again, how many classrooms do you have for BMA exactly?
We were asked to include 10 classrooms in the office of BMA. As Michelle stated earlier, the administrations from both schools are going to work together to make sure all spaces are allocated.
10 classes?
10 classrooms currently located on the plan.
Okay. And how many students can fit in that classroom?
All
In
of-
each classroom?
Every classroom is designed for 30 students.
30.
Right next to it.
29. Okay. Thank you.
And there's a total of 50 general classrooms on the building, including gaming.
So all 340 students are going to be able to fit in all 10 classrooms?
That's programming and not a work.
So if it's not going to be able to work out, then you guys are going to have to cut down on how many students can attend the BMA program.
Programming activity.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Robert Halstead. I'm a lifelong resident of the city. I'm a member of Urban Bike Tours in Bridgeport. We're a bicycle advocacy group. And we want to promote more bicycle for recreational and commuting purposes in Bridgeport. And there's bike and pedestrian safety issues throughout the state, as you know. So has that issue of bicycle safety been discussed by your engineering people?
I mean, the school building is all within an existing lot. We are not working on the roads other than to incorporate new signage for the school.
Well, then my concern is not addressed. Thank you.
I'm going based on the number this young lady said, there's 3 BMA students contractually maximum of 29. You know, classrooms don't work out perfectly, you would need 11.72 classrooms just for instruction. Just for homerooms, you would need 11.72. And then you have all those amazing classrooms where they set up a crime scene, the simulator, which generally, you know, that's not where you're learning your core subjects. So it does look like there's a big problem here, right out of the gate.
I mean, the way schools work in the class is not all the students are going to be in all the general classrooms at once. Some of them will be, I assume, in the other.
Okay, well, let's just talk about homeroom. Where are you putting 340 students? You just said you have the BMA needs a special place for, you know, I forgot what it's called, formation. So what I'm saying to you is, no matter what, you do have an issue right now. I remember at Harding High School, I was in the cafeteria for homeroom, and as a child, you feel kind of picked on a little less than everybody else. Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say, I don't blame any of you for anything that is going on here, because I know none of you have to do with the secret purchase of $6 million. Everybody should know here, the city council never appropriated any money for land acquisition. It was 26 million because the city has to come up with 20% of the cost, and the state provides about 80, somewhere in that. So the city council was always supposed to be built on the original massing. So the $6 million purchase, you know, was unlawful. I'm just gonna say that. But I do want to say, I think it's important if you guys can schedule, I don't know if you're planning another forum, but I think you should have Laura Mappa here from the WPCA. You should have Dante Hanks here, or somebody high level from the state, who can answer all the issues about resilient Bridgeport. Because I know that it's not your wheelhouse. And so you're being asked questions that are not anything to do with your purview. But I think if you can reschedule this and get all those parties together to answer some amazing questions that people have raised today. Like, I think about that 5th level, that, you know, the extra 10 feet. I would never want to be the residential home behind Bassett High School, because it's hard to believe that when there's torrential downpours, that there's not going to be any runoff. It fits up another level than anything else on the street. It's kind of hard to believe that there's going to be no runoff onto my house. You know, it really is. And I've experienced a lot of flooding in my district. I've had severe flooding. People have had to be rescued out of their cars by the fire department. People have lost furnaces, and they repaired it. 4 days later, it happened again. So I'm just saying, I think you're being asked questions, and you're not obfuscating, and they're not things that are in your wheelhouse. So I think maybe we could reschedule something and bring all those cohorts together. That might be good for the people who have concerns and live in the community. Thank you.
Just note that they work by everyone.
Okay. And they just said, what, we can't make it? Or it was too, I don't know. Oh, that's pretty disgraceful. We pay all the people's salaries at the state level. And Laura Mappa, the head of the WPCA, said she's gonna make it. Huh, can't wait for the election.
Hi, I'm a sophomore at Bassett High School, and I live too far from the school to get a school bus. And if you move the school, how are people like me gonna get to school without the school bus or without a car?
Yeah, that's gonna be coming with some others. They can't answer those questions, sweetie, okay?
Okay, I have another question. When you showed the inside of the school, you didn't like show the cafeteria, and is the cafeteria like separate for the different schools?
No, there's one half there.
Okay.
I think he kind of went by kind of quick, so you probably didn't see it.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. I know it's in an area that's kind of far from where the project is really happening. I still can't figure that out, but there are some buildings in that area that this could have been held at. I get it. I want to show off the place here, but at the end of the day, my thing is this, and are you aware that just south, I don't know if you want to even call it south, where the football field is over, if you're looking at it towards the right, there's supposed to be a major flooding project going on that is supposed to raise that street level. Lafayette is supposed to be raised to keep water from going further down into the housing area. Is anybody aware of that?
It's at university, that's the project.
No, but it comes up right to the end of when you come into Seaside Park. Maybe I'm just dumb and don't know it, but I am the park board president. So, you know, I don't get it. I mean, we keep building stuff and then we have to redig holes to correct what already should have been corrected the first time, so we spend more money. The second thing to that is, UB has been trying to get fields on a sneak peek level. There's nothing to hide, right? They went and had some meetings. They formed some committees to meet at the University of Bridgeport. I, who was the president of the park board, found out by mistake. I said, wait a minute. Why are they trying to purchase or develop more fields at Seaside Park when they've already taken over Diamond One? I don't know how that deal went because I was on the park board and I don't remember signing anything that says you have total control of the field. Second, Bassett High School is my concern, even though I'm a Harding alumni. But I'm a kid person, I've always have been, and I always will be. Somewhere along the line, we have to take the city. It's not them, because they have nothing to do with it. But the cities, you have to start figuring out, when is everybody going to get something equal across the board? Harding has his own baseball field, right? They failed to understand what I was telling them about building the girls a softball field in the same complex. So now Harding runs all over the city of Bridgeport trying to get a field to play. Bassett, they don't have a real home. They go wherever there's a field available. How sad is that? That for all these years, that school on the other side of Bridgeport, and again, this is not to you, but when are we in the city going to start saying everybody gets the same thing when it comes to our kids? When is someone going to just stop going along with the norm and step up and say, listen, we're not doing that anymore? This is not about me and it's not about us adults, because we've basically, a lot of us have lived our life, we've traveled, we've done what we got to do. But what about our grandkids that are coming up? Are we going to continue to teach them to just accept whatever's handed to them? Bassett, we don't have a real field for you. We're building you a school, which I don't understand that every school that gets built in other cities and other states, they always incorporate athletic fields. Why don't we have that? Now, I'm on the park where no one from the city has yet approached me or my board about room for a steady home for girls softball. You know what girls softball is? And you're probably not aware of it. Those girls are made to walk to Winfield Park when they have games. Well, they were a few years ago. I don't know how to get there now. How safe is that? And the reason I say that is because that becomes part of the responsibility of a school that you're building. To not allow these kids to have to go in an area. Well, listen, you guys, guys in the city, you guys who put this all together behind closed doors. Mr. Philippe, I don't know if you're here, but you were one of the guys that said, when they asked you if Benji should have been involved in those so-called meetings about athletic fields, and your answer to them was, he doesn't need to know yet. City, figure it out. Because the city, the Parks Department has a charter, and that's law. Stop playing with it. Find these kids in time, a baseball field, a softball field. I can get it, it's a beautiful school, right? Has anybody bothered to take a look at the gym downstairs at Harding High School? It fits 400 people because everything was rushed. Think about what we're doing with that school before you sign off completely on it. Thank you.
We're going to take the last 3 questions here, and then we have one online because we want to get to another part of the presentation as well.
Okay, so my name is Janaya, and I am a sophomore who attends BMA. And BMA is a school for kids all around, like it's an out-of-district school. So building such a small school, how would the out-of-city students still be cooperated? I know you guys needed a certain numbers to build the school in the first place, which is kind of why you merged the smaller school with the school that also needed the help. So I want to know if the kids who's out of a district, are they going to have to leave the school? Because Bassick now is a neighborhood school. It's not really a school of choice. So my main question is, to fit in the capacity of the school, would you guys have to kick out outer district students in order to maintain within the capacity?
I mean, I can't speak to the actual plan to either school, but the intent is that the same students would get bused in, same as they are now, and be able to attend the school.
So even kids that live in Monroe, you guys have plans for those kids in Stratford and so on, or is it just Bridgeport?
Whatever the current system is to get the students to Bridgewater Academy, I assume would be the same program in place when it gets relocated to
Okay, thank you.
I just want to ask, because I know that my school, we have a Navy program, and we need a really large space for when we have drills and inspections. When we do those, it's about the size of this auditorium. It's a really, how do I say? It's a lot for when we're doing everything, we need to do it properly. So I know there's only one gym. How are you gonna build another area where we can do these? Because if not, then that's gonna interfere with our program. The Navy already puts money into us, a lot of money. And if we start taking things out, our program isn't strong, then they're not gonna fund us. So I just want to have a place to come to in 10 years for my 10-year reunion. And if, all these things are getting taken out, I'm not going to have nowhere to come to. So I just want to say, they're going to get an area where we're going to be able to do all of our Navy stuff that we've been doing now for the past, 10, 15 years. 10 years.
The gymnasium holds at least 1,000 people. I know it's more, but I don't want to say specifically, so I can't remember the number off the top of my head. There's also a vertical divider in it that, if needed, you could have 2 separate classrooms in the gym at the same time. And when the bleachers are pushed back against the wall, there's even more space. But again, I believe that the 2 school administrations are going to work together and come up with those solutions.
Okay, thank you.
Hi there, my name is Julie Mar Ortiz. I have a letter that I sent to the superintendent and Board of Ed before Christmas that I have not received a response to, and I won't read all the questions on it, but one of the questions that I think just hasn't been highlighted today is pollution that surrounds this area of Bridgeport. We know that Black and brown communities are subject to more polluting industries. It's Black History Month. And we also know that we're susceptible to more respiratory diseases due to this and other diseases, cancer, low birth weights, etc. And my students, already from PT already live in a polluted area, being surrounded by 4 or 5 industries. And so, is there a plan within the school construction to mitigate, like a filtering system or something that will help reduce the amount of pollution that comes into the school that students and staff and the community who go into the school will be breathing? And I guess the other thing I'll just say, I think that this meeting being held at Harding was also a big mistake. There has to be a space on the south end or on the west side that could have fit this much people. And I think that there's a lot of parents and students who wanted to be here, and although there were buses provided, I think it deterred a lot of people from being here because it was held on another side of town. But I know that, that wasn't up to you. You guys are more on the building side, so if you could answer my question about the air filtration system, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure, all the mechanical systems are going to be built standard, building code standards and have filtration systems in them for the fresh air that they are bringing in from the outside. We're going to have walk-off mats and stuff that all the vestibules keep any dirt from feet and stuff coming into the building. Most entries and stuff should all be limited to the main entry anyway. But other than that, it's a LEED certified building. The building will be commissioned to make sure all the equipment is working correctly. LEED buildings are designed and pursue credits that improve the health of the occupants in the building.
Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm reading a comment from a gentleman named Harold Marin on YouTube. It says, as architects, would the outcome of Bassick High and BMA being built in the old Hubble factory over on State Street be a better outcome for the issues regarding traffic, environmental issues, and then the BMA number of classes?
I personally can't speak to that. I have no idea what the Hubble site capacities were.
Hubble was over 80. And the issue was there.
Will you get on the microphone, please?
The issue, prime issue with the Hubble site is the development. One a crazy number versus city.
I have one more question from another gentleman on YouTube, Gregory Breland. Why wasn't an environmental impact assessment done before on this site?
We stated at the beginning of the meeting, there were both phases of the environmental impact study were conducted by TTC, checking all the ground, any contaminations in the ground.
And that's what studies that required by the office of school department grants and review. For them to be able to sign off and approve the site. That's what we did, submitted to them, and they approved the site.
Because I happen to know, and I'm on a state commission for environmental justice, that this school has not been made to have an environmental impact statement or study. So you're lending to the confusion by saying that the two environmental, tests that were done are the same as an environmental impact study or statement. They're not the same.
Involves regulation. Virginia staff.
No, that's not true.
Look, go to the website for the Office of School Construction Grants and Review.
I've been there.
Look at the site analysis paperwork,
I did.
and it says environmental site analysis.
That's different from an environmental impact statement.
But-
All right,
but-
all you had to do is check the toxins in the soil. You did not have to have a comprehensive study. I know, I spoke to Deep. All you were required to have is a flood management certificate and 2 tests of the soil. It's different. And it's not your fault.
I'm not going
It's
to
not
argue
your
with
fault, but
you.
it's different.
We follow the Office of School Construct Grant and Review.
Okay, so you did follow that, but there was a lower standard.
And the phase 1 and a phase 2 was done.
And that's not the same as an environmental impact study. That's just a test to see if the soil has any toxins
I'm
in
not
it.
going to argue with you. We follow the
Yes.
state regulations that
And you're
relate
quite
to
right.
school construction.
You follow,
It's what we've done on every site.
okay, you followed the state regulations, but the state regulations for this school were lower. The standards were lower. So you did not have to have an environmental impact statement. You did what the state asked you, but through use of a loophole, an administrative process, this school has not met the same standards that were met for other schools throughout the state. Why, for Black and brown children, their teachers, their administrators, and their families, that a lower standard of environmental evaluation is okay for us. I checked with attorneys, and this is not the process that schools usually have, and this standard is exceedingly low. The school was allowed that. It was a special procedure. You're not doing anything illegal, but ethically and morally, why do our kids low standard? And I won't argue with you because I have the documents.
Thank you, Mr. Schilling, and thank you, Anthony, for coming up. Thank you. It's approximately 7:24, so we have about a half an hour left, so I am going to have to make some cuts for our presentation, but I think we need to hear from a couple. We received over 200 questions in the portal, and most of them were in regards to programming for both of the schools. So I'm going to ask Mr. Carafa, who is our lead in data management, just to come up and explain the process in regards to how programming is done that has not been etched out yet, of course, but I did want him to be able to explain that to us.
Good evening, how is everyone? So really quick, to be honest with everybody, our department was not involved in any process at this point. Right now, as far as programming goes, we're going to take this into effect. We're going to be able to take a look and have a conversation with both principals. Our job is to schedule. Our job is to make sure that courses are active right now. Courses at this point that are in both schools to do an analysis and an evaluation on those courses. Once we do that, we take a look and see what courses are taken together. In other words, what courses does BASIC have that BMA has. We also look at the unique courses, the courses that BMA have just for BMA. We take a look at what BASIC has for BASIC High School. And then kind of what we do is we work with principals. We take a look at what's best suited for the children. And again, as I said, we haven't got to that point yet. The point that we're at right now is, taking a look at what's best for the children. From a graduation standpoint, if you take an Algebra 1 course, for example, Algebra 1 is taken everywhere. We haven't gone through and spoke through the board yet as far as with the schools being combined. Could there be a chance that, like for Fairchild-Wheeler, that if you're in, let's say, the IT school, if you can take courses inside the other school? So for instance here, if you're at BMA, can you take courses inside of BASIC? From a state perspective, we are allowed to do these things. We are allowed to, if there is space for a child to be able to take a course, an elective, a course needed for graduation. We are allowed to take that student from school A, let's say BMA, and allow that student to take a course inside of BASIC if necessary. In speaking with the state, there are two things. We are allowed to have two schools in one building. We are also allowed to have them be separately, as long as there's two administrators, one administrator that handles BMA, the other administrator that handles, obviously, BASIC. Those schools can be in the same building. There was a question that came up about can those students who are coming in now from other districts attend this school? Yes, they can. So for instance, if a Monroe student right now is going to BMA, okay, that student can participate and come to BMA at the BASIC BMA complex. The way we do it with Fairchild-Wheeler is we took Fairchild-Wheeler, and with Fairchild-Wheeler, we made it a campus. So on that campus, there are those three schools, IT, aerospace, and biotech. A method could be to not call it BASIC or BMA, is to call it X campus, whatever the campus name may be, that houses BASIC High School and BMA at this point. Back to scheduling, what we do with scheduling as far as taking the measure of getting kids in courses is our first thing is to make sure kids are going to take those courses that they need to graduate. Secondly, those courses that they get, the electives at the point, or the special courses for the school, we also want to make sure that they're able to take these and have the space to have these special courses. Again, like the fire science, like other different things that are brought just inside of BMA. I'll give you a point. There are 19 courses at BMA that are exclusive to just BMA. BASIC High School, there are another 20 courses that are exclusive to just BASIC High School. There are 32 courses that BASIC and BMA have together right now. Those 32 courses are the Algebra 1, the biologies, in this case, and even some college level courses that come by. Our job is going to be to support, to make sure that the principals at this point get what they need. We do this right now, obviously for Fairchild, so there is no difference in the scheduling mechanism of what we do. I do know with classroom space, there are some points about kids in the classroom, and I do agree. I'll throw you a couple statistics today. BASIC High School, as of today, has 1,007 kids in there. BMA has 293 kids as of today. What we seem to find is with BMA, towards the end of the year, they get down to about 290, and BASIC at a certain point, either fluctuates from like I don't know, about 1,000 down to about, 980, all depending on what it may be. Scheduling with Dr. Rayola or scheduling with DSORS, I guess our motive, and we are definitely going to make sure that the children get exactly what they need and are successful from a graduation standpoint. Those courses that are necessary and are mandated by either the district or the state, I will guarantee you that those children will have access to those courses. One of the studies we do in my office is to make sure that right now we double check and make sure what they're doing in the schools as far as the counseling and everything goes, that those kids are on track with the different pathways, with the different programs that are being brought up to manufacturing. There may be certain courses that are aligned to that. In other words, that certain kids will be mandated to take during that program. For BMA, there are certain courses for you to take right now in order to be some of the graduation requirements. We definitely will be able to fulfill those courses and make sure that the children have what they need. And as far as a graduation end, both BASIC and BMA at this point do graduate their students. I will say the highest graduation, and I will say it, is BMA. BMA has a fantastic graduation rate with their students. We need to maintain and make sure at a district level that whatever happens, that once we find the classroom space, we do know a perspective of how many teachers we have, how many sections, how many different courses that we're going to need. I think from a district standpoint, I have no say in the matter what goes on as far as the building and everything else, but I do have, and we'll make sure that from a say that those special courses, that not only do we have committees, but we make sure that those courses that BMA had, that they get moved over so that we can make sure that they maintain and have those courses, especially the BMA. I know Dr. Rayola at this point, knowing him for many years now, is willing to do whatever he has to make sure that when both schools come in, they get the most even, effective, placement. Because I know Dr. Rayola and, DSORS care more about the children than you could believe. I do agree, last thing is that, we have some work to do with the district, and we haven't gotten there yet as far as the district level. But when we get there, I know with, Ms. Parent at this point, or Superintendent Parent, I should say, we'll do everything we can to facilitate whatever those needs are of those children. Because remember, that's our goal. We're going to make sure that that happens.
I want to give an opportunity for Dr. Rayola and Ms. Soares to speak on behalf of their school communities and share some sentiments. Would you please join me on stage?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. First off, I want to say I am pleased to be brought into the conversation of the merger between BMA and BASIC. So my name is Diane Swords, and I am the principal at Bridgeport Military Academy. And in my 9 years at Bridgeport Military Academy, I watched it grow into a robust, inspiring, and unique program in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I used to say we were Bridgeport's best kept secret, and I think that's my problem. I should let it be known, all the good things we do for the community and for Bridgeport. Our school motto is to do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. And I plan to uphold that philosophy as I continue to work with Superintendent Parent, Dr. Baldwin, Joe Rayola, teachers, and parents to make this a smooth transition for our children. My main goal is to ensure that BMA continues to grow and maintain our vision for student success.
Thank you so much, Ms. Soares. Welcome, everybody, and I'm Joe Rayola, principal of Bassick High School. I must say, I couldn't be more excited for this collaboration between BMA and Bassick. What we're looking at here is really a great opportunity for two schools to come together. We're looking at 5 distinct academies, 3 on what would be the traditional Bassick side, and then BMA. As another academy, along with a freshman academy as well. So I want to reassure the BMA community that we were respecting your uniqueness. We're going to support what BMA has and continue to honor that going forward. We have the utmost respect for what you've done and the accomplishments you have, and we're going to continue on that same path when we connect you with the Bassick community. Yesterday was a real special day for Ms. Soares and I. We brought both faculties together, and the collaboration that the two teams had immediately within their departments was second to none. We really saw some great conversations about how to utilize space. There's a gentleman in the back here, I forget your name, you had a group, Mr. Kadam, I met with Mr. Kadam after. My teachers from BMA and Bassick, please keep talking to us. Mr. Kadam had some great ideas on how to cross-collaborate and utilize space in the best manner possible. The answers for a lot of the problems with the programming are going to come from within. They're going to come from the educators, the teachers, the administrators. So please keep the conversations going. I can't speak to environmental studies. I can't speak to all of those things. What I can say to you is, as the principal or one of the principals at the school, we're fully committed to making this work within the community and fully committed to making this work within both schools as well. So, in closing, it's great seeing all the parents out and seeing the community members out. We're at Bassick now, we're working on a pretty large grant, Commissioners Network grant. And if anyone wants to get involved in that, we are soliciting members for a school governance council now. We're always looking for PTSO people that want to get involved. So please send me an email, jrayola@bridgeportedu.net. You'll find me on the Bassick website as well. Let's keep the conversation going for the next 2.5 years so that when we get to this beautiful new facility, everybody is happy and everyone is comfortable moving in. So thank you so much for coming out tonight, everyone.
I just wanted to add that at our meeting yesterday, what we shared with the teachers is that we're going to have monthly meetings. Dr. Rayola and I cannot make all the decisions. And we're going to try to come up with meetings and we're going to invite different teachers. We want parents involved, probably a board member, because there's a lot of decisions that need to be made with this going forward. And we need everyone's input on this. So I think that's a good first step, to bring everyone to the table to come up with solutions for whatever we run into in the future. So I just wanted to put that up there.
So I know that we haven't planned out any programming, but are there any programming questions that any of you have that maybe Dr. Rayola or Ms. Soares may be able to answer for you at this time? If you guys can just come right to the mics if you have questions or things that you'd like to say.
I'm not sure if this is a programming question, but I've been spearheading a lot of the advocacy and honestly, largely the reason why this forum is happening. And in that process, I've spoken to a lot of different teachers, and I've repeatedly heard claims that they've been discouraged from giving their opinion on the situation. I've been told that they were told not to come to the community forum. I've been told that they were shamed about expressing concerns and critiques about the design. Do you have any response to that, specifically Principal Rayola?
I'm completely unaware of any of those concerns. We have been as collaborative as possible
with our staff and transparent with them. Please, whoever you're speaking with, have them sit down and talk and voice their concerns.
But, yeah, so, right, but they're saying that you're saying these things to them. So I don't know who's lying.
Yeah, just not true. I don't know what else to say.
Interesting.
So there was an online questionnaire where everyone was able to submit a question to this forum. I didn't see, and it could have been anonymous. I didn't see anyone participate, and we had an opportunity for everyone to submit. So I mean, that would be, and again, if someone is nervous, feel free to submit questions to interim superintendent of schools for an answer. Absolutely. Why not? I don't see why not. Yeah, and even more so, teachers have a teachers union. And we've been in conversation with the teachers union as well. So feel free to reach out to your BEA reps if you have a concern, and more than happy to address them.
So on the point of the teachers union specifically, that was brought up in the case that people years before now, I'm talking about now and in past circumstances, were actively deterred from speaking out against the location of the school. And a lot of them stopped out of fear of losing their jobs.
I'm unaware of any of that.
Okay.
Yeah, completely unaware of any of that.
Okay. My name is Vanessa Arroyo. I am the open choice recruiter for BMA. So I just want to say a few things, and I think it goes beyond just the program, but it goes to the vision of BMA in the district itself. Currently this year, this is my second year in the role of recruiter. We had roughly 384 applications last year. We are up to 591. I just want to make it known to everyone that we are a program, we are a school that needs to be appreciated and needs to be given the correct space. Therefore, we need a correct vision and an accurate vision from the district, board officials, various personnel to what the future of BMA is going to be. I know PJ was giving some numbers, and I'm looking at the numbers for the design of the building. It was about 1,250 students, but basing it off the 980 that PJ said Bass is going to average out, and the 290 that we're supposedly going to average out, that's about 1,270 students. So if BMA is meant to grow, which we want all of our schools to grow, why are we being put into a building that particularly will not allow any of these, both schools to grow? If anything, we're trying to diminish these programs to be a certain number, and we want our schools to be something that is amazing, that all of our students love and participate in. So I don't know if it's even a program question, but more so that I think both schools need to sit down with the district to talk about what the vision for each school is and how we can come together as a joint vision so that we can make sure that each school gets what it needs physically, emotionally, socially, hitting all those keywords that we love to throw around to make sure that everyone is successful in all levels, teachers, students, community levels, etc.
I think she just hit on what I was just going to say. In terms of, I understand programming is very important when it comes to school and high school, but in high school, there's a sense of social identity. And I feel like in merging the two schools, you leave that sense of identity away from BMA and both Bassett. In Bridgeport, we're very proud. There's almost this conflict of different sides of town. I go to this school, I was raised on this side of town. When you merge that, you forge that, sometimes change is good, we get that. But in the sense of this, where's the voice of these young people who are striving and fighting right now for their identities when you say you might want to do something like a campus that says BMA or Bassick exists underneath that? How is that? I'm Bassick 96. I went to Central Magnet 93. I went to 3 high schools and 3 elementary schools here in Bridgeport. And there's a sense of identity when you can wear your green proud. You can wear your red and black proud, or even your blue and gold proud. It's something a disservice. And if we're going to teach our children to speak up, we definitely have to have our politicians involved in this conversation. but where? Where is the voice of the children and their identity in this merge?
No, no, come on now. I can feel just a little bit of that. We're here as administrators. The decision was made to merge the two schools. So I can't speak to that. But what I could say to you is when these communities come together, we are going to make sure that we have BMA has its own identity, along with 3 or actually 4 other academies for Bassett. So there's going to be some different academies within the school. The naming of the entire school, that's still up for debate. I was here at Harding when I was actually here for 5 years prior to this building being completed and moving in here. And we went through a naming protocol for that. So I would encourage everyone to think about that as we move forward as potential naming for the new school, what it may be with these 2 campuses coming together. The other thing too, I want to say to you, the Bassett students, I'm hearing some different things about the Bassett students, and they are some of the best, top-notch kids in the city. I want to just put that out to everyone. They have gone without for so long. They are in a building that is, the heat is, I mean, 95, 100 degrees, sweaty, hot. You were a graduate. It hasn't changed at all since then. We got some smart boards up, but that's it. It's still hot. It's still not. It's still a tough building. So when I look at this and I remember what the old Harding was like coming here, I just think about what the Bassett students and the BMA students are going to feel when they go to this new facility that the architects have described. So when the schools come together, we'll work on individuality and culture, but it's about getting our kids top-notch, state-of-the-art facilities, and that's what we're working on right now.
All right, hopefully Ms. Karen can answer this for me. So basically, when I found out about this, I started a petition. I have 5 pages worth of signatures from students from my school stating that they don't want the collaboration with Bassett and BMA together. And when I went for help, I went to my teachers because, you know, that's who I go to when I need help with something. So I asked them if they could sign my petition. They stated that they couldn't sign my petition because it goes against their contract. I just want to know, why are their voices not being heard too?
You asked me a question specific, and I wish Ms. Baptista was still here, who was the teacher union president, so she could speak more about that piece. I said the reason was when I walked into the door, one of the things that was dealt to me is this collaboration. Ms. Soares, I've known Ms. Soares for several years, and I looked at Ms. Soares and I said, Ms. Soares, what's happening? What's going on? I said, one of the things she explained to me was she, as well as her school community, felt like their voices were slighted. So we started having conversations about making sure that their voices were heard. So I can't speak directly to what you're talking about as far as contract is concerned or what your teachers communicated to you, because it wasn't communicated from me. I said the reason why I engaged in the conversation first with Ms. Soares is because she made that very clear, and it's extremely important to hear her voice as well as the school community.
Hi, I have a question about the new school. How many of the Bassett classrooms are dedicated to special ed children?
That's a wonderful question, but I can't answer it. Mr. Anthony, do you know that information or that answer? How many of the actual classrooms are dedicated for special education? He said between 8 and 10. Ma'am?
Hi, hello, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity for us to ask these questions, number one. Number two, I am a parent of 3 kids, 2 that attended Bassett High School. The first one graduated, the second one decided midterm that she will not be a part of this. So I understand there needs to be change. And as you stand here, Mr. Arola, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, continuously saying that as administrator, this is what you guys decided that needed to be changed, that the school needed to merge, am I correct?
It's not our decision here.
No, it was not their decision here. So the decision to merge came from previous administration that was here, not school administration, that would be district
School
administration.
administrator, but administrator nonetheless.
Administration, district administration, correct.
Okay, so they decided that the school needed to merge. And like I said, I understand that changes need to be happening. I agree with you when you say the school needs to be upgraded or done differently, because that's why my kids no longer could attend here. My last child struggled in there because of the lack of special ed. However, at some point during all of this conversation, why weren't the student who this 100%, maybe 90 minimum affect, why weren't they not a part of the conversation?
Again, that's not the school-based administrators. So that, when the decision was made,
Understood.
and that was made at the district level under previous administration. So I can't answer that question for you. I can't say why that was done. They can't say that why it was done. So I don't have the answer as to why they weren't part of the conversation. Ms. Soares also shared that she wasn't part of the conversation as an administrator as well. So those answers I don't have for you.
Okay, I would love to ask the person who decided that same question.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
So I have a question pertaining BMA keeping its identity. So Bassett High School, they don't wear uniform and we wear uniform. And BMA is a bully-free school zone. And you know, Bassett students, they state their opinion quite a lot to people who don't look like them or they're not wearing the best shoes or so forth and so forth. So will the whole school wear uniform even though BMA is a part of Bassett now, or are you still going to keep separate clothing?
So you're just asking specifically, that is a programming issue, so that's something that definitely will have to be worked out amongst how would that want to be presented, because BMA does have very specific uniforms, but that has not been determined as to whether it's going to change, whether it's going to look different. That's all programming, and it has not been discussed.
Okay, and I have another question pertaining to our Navy funding. So for our funding, we have a big inspection, right? So how would that work in that gym? If I was coming to inspect a certain school and I see a whole bunch of mixed behaviors and not such good behaviors, because I have associates from Bassett and they say that the kids from their school are not on their best behavior. In BMA, we have structure in our school. So we know when that time comes not to act up. So if I was going to inspect the kids at the school, I wouldn't want to give my money to that program. If it was in the school with their pants down, it's bringing down the title of BMA.
So what I'll say to that is that there's expectations for all school, and that comes from collaboration, that comes from leadership, that comes from enforcement of rules and expectations that are set in climate. So although you were talking about your personal experience at BMA, there are some students who may have that same experience at Bassett and other schools as well. So those are district-wide expectations. So if there's visitors that come in, the expectation for all students to do what they need to do every day, not when there's just a visitor in the building.
And also for the principal of Bassett, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name properly. So will you still be the principal when the schools combine?
We're still working on that now, but it's still a programming issue. I sure hope so. I enjoy the leadership work I do, and I hope that Ms. Soares is partnering with me on it. We don't know what the future will hold, but it's 2.5 years away, so there's a lot of conversations happening. I want to follow up with something that you had mentioned, and again, I keep hearing Bassett, BMA. I think it's important that we all recognize we're all Bridgeport. We're all from the same town. We're all from the same place. We're all responsible for all of our students and all of the friends that you talk to about whatever's going on at Bassett. They may have the same opinion about what's going on at BMA. I don't know. But I want to say that again, that we're all Bridgeport and we're all here to help each other out, not put each other down. So please keep that in mind as we keep these conversations going.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you give me the names of the administrators that you keep referring to for the last person who spoke before me on this side? Their question, and I think there was about 2 or 3 other people who spoke before that, and every single answer was, we can't answer that because it was done by prior administration. So I would like to know, who are those administrators? What were their positions? I want to know their names and their positions. That's one thing I want to know. And then I also want to know, from an accountability and a transparency perspective, like I came here tonight not even knowing that BMA and BASIC were merging. I thought that this forum was about where it's being constructed, because putting it where Seaside is very dangerous because it's a flood zone. And even when I was sitting in on the city council meeting where they were voting on that, there were city council people speaking out about how it's not safe for what's going on with the climate and the changes in our environment to build that school there. And so then coming here and hearing all of this other stuff that's going on, I just feel like I just keep hearing these dead-end answers, and I just don't feel like that's enough. And I want to know what's going to be done to make it more transparent, to hold people accountable, to have these conversations. So yeah, I want to hold those people accountable, and I also want to know what's going to change from moving forward, because I think that you are now the current administration. So yeah, I want to know those things. I'm going to write down your answers so that I can contact those prior people.
So I'm not saying any names in here, but we all know our previous superintendent. And district administration is under the previous superintendent, and these decisions were made under that administration. So that is what I will say to answer that question. As we continuously move forward, I can't tell you the next step. There's got to be lots of conversations. There's got to be lots of collaboration about what's going to happen. That's why one of the first steps was to bring these 2 professionals together to start building the community with the current administration, with the current teachers. That's why Ms. Soares was speaking about having these monthly meetings, because we want people to have voice in what it's going to look like if we move forward with this collaboration. Now, can I tell you exactly those details? No, not at all. All I can tell you is that we're looking to move forward to try to make it the best vision that we possibly can, with teachers, with administrators, with board members, with community members, with parents, and with students, to be able to have some voice in that.
Can we also bring in a third party, in a sense, type of accountability that is trained in some sort of, like an equity, I'm thinking? Like, I work for a nonprofit here in Bridgeport, and we have a racial equity coach that informs us on all of our programming, all of our decisions, to make sure that we're moving in the direction of like liberation and equity and things like that. And I know you're saying that it's all Bridgeport, it's all connected, but all the districts are very different from each other. And depending on who your city council people are and what's going on there, it does make things different. So yeah, I'm wondering, like, I don't know if that's Board of Ed or if that's administration, but is there someone we can bring in? Because great to have those conversations, but if people don't feel safe having those conversations because they're worried about losing their jobs or even just like not being heard, I just want to know that there's like another like accountability piece there. I don't know if I'm making sense in what I'm expressing.
I think that you're just talking about having someone else there to have voice there who isn't as connected. That's what I think I'm hearing, and maybe I'm not. I said, but the conversation is open for people because I asked these 2 individuals, who do you think we should invite? So that's open to the conversation as well. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I know I have 2 individuals over here who want to speak, and I am going to give them an opportunity to. And then I want to invite our board members as well, if they have anything that they want to share. I know the time is now 8 o'clock, so we do have to be cognizant of that as well. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I'll be really brief. I'm a Bridgeport resident, parent, zone for BASIC. And I just want to say thank you to the superintendent, our interim new superintendent, for bringing this forum together. And thank you to the Board of Education. The reason why the feeling in the room and the tension exists is because of the lack of transparency and the lack of engagement that has gone into this project thus far. And so I'm just voicing, and you said it, Superintendent Perrin, that the plan going forward is to be public facing with everything. And I really, really hope that the Bridgeport community gets the answers to the environmental impact study. I really hope that the school community gets the answers to the design and its ability to withstand Category 5 hurricanes. I really hope that there's neighborhood meetings with residents in the neighborhood about the traffic. And I also really hope that the taxpayers of Bridgeport get answers as to why we paid the bid to demolish the buildings on site $3.3 million more than the first, lowest bidder, and why that contractor that was hired to demolish UB has just been fired from the state contractors for corruption. So the problem in Bridgeport is that because our administration, in the mayor's administration and in the previous superintendent's administration, the problem is that they did things behind closed doors. We've never gotten answers. Meetings were held in executive session, and now we're here. And there are all these voices and concerns and constituents. And so it is up to all of us, the grown-ups in this room, the adults in this room, to shepherd this thing going forward in a way that centers every single person who is going to be impacted by this in an equitable, just way. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple questions as far as academics. We all know that BMA has English 9, 10, 11, 12, social studies. We all know Bassett also has the same thing. Will we be integrating BMA students with Bassett students to be able to take those core classes that are needed to be graduated? So are we going to be having BMA head-to-toe uniform students in the same classroom with Bassett students with no uniform policy?
So again, that's a programming thing, and we have not worked it out. We haven't worked out the program, so I can't answer that. I'm not going to tell you something that I don't have an answer for. We haven't done any program yet.
And just from being in the district for so long, I was PTSO president at BMA for almost 6 years. Had 2 kids that graduated out of BMA. I was also the PTO president at Bassett High School because my stepson went to Bassett High School. So I've had the feel of both schools. I have respect for both administrators. I personally have not ever had a problem working with both of them. But as a parent, I have seen the disparaging atmospheres for BMA and to Bassett. These BMA students, Bassett students deserve everything up in the book. So do all the Bridgeport students in the Bridgeport Board of Education. But at Bridgeport Military Academy, our plan, as they have said, was always to expand. We have they have a great program. I can't say we, but I still consider myself part of BMA. I will always consider myself BMA. We have been capped at only allowing a certain amount of students in our program because the previous administration has denied us the funding to expand. BMA can be an elaborate program in Bridgeport, but we've been denied, and we've been denied because they're saying there's no funding, and they deny us extra staffing. So my question is, we have English 9 teachers, Bassett English 9 teachers at BMA. Who's staying and who's going? There's not room for all these teachers.
No, there aren't room for every one of the teachers.
But when we were first introduced to this proposal, BMA was supposed to have its own flooring high school that was going to be significantly just BMA. We were going to be housed in the Bassett building. We were not told that we were going to be integrating. We did not know that Bassett students were going to be taking BMA electives and all that. It's just ridiculous. A lot of this stuff was done for money purposes. They needed the numbers to get that building built. So what his name, Mr. Michael Stein, said was he wanted to give it a BMA for very, very many years. Why? Because he wants to put classical studies in the BMA building. They couldn't find another building for classical studies because they're in 2 separate buildings right now. This is stuff that has been done behind the scenes, but fortunately, I move around, I know what doors you're going to and whatnot, so I know a lot of what's going on. BMA has been left out of this conversation from the beginning. Ms. Soares even said it herself. She had no idea that any of this stuff is because every time I get a phone call or find out what's going on, I'm calling Ms. Soares. I'm letting her know because the identity of BMA needs to stay. And I'm sorry it's going to be lost in Bath. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reggie, Ehem, Bridgeport. Sorry, it's taken aback by how I just heard. My question is in direct response to, or just a follow-up in regards to a previous statement. There was a survey or a petition, 500 students. It was kind of blinked over. What is the avenue for students? Was their voice listened to? Because it sounds like.
This is the first time I've heard about that petition, so I can't answer that. I didn't even know that it existed.
When you talk about the petition, I heard you could get more information about the petition. Apparently, the petition, 500 students is a lot of students from oh, 5 pages. Oh, my apologies. 5 pages is still a lot. My apologies, I didn't say 200 signatures.
That's okay.
My God. Amazing work. But yeah, is there an avenue for the students? Because there's 200 students right there and they're supposed to not want to be here. And it's like
No, they weren't annoyed. Like I said, that's the first time I've heard about it, so I don't know whether she shared it with anybody or not. So as we were talking about planning, we are inviting children and students to be a part of the conversation. I can't hear you.
So there is an avenue being made for students.
Correct, that's part of those planning meetings that we're talking about as far as moving forward. No, absolutely. I have one last comment here, guys, because the time we were supposed to close at 8 o'clock.
Excuse me, I was standing here.
No, I know, I'm addressing everyone right now, thank you. We were supposed to stop at 8 o'clock and the time is now 8:09. I do want to give my board members an opportunity to speak if they have something to say as well.
Okay. The Bassett High School right now has 2 gymnasiums, 1 concert hall, a library, and a telescope, and a whole bunch of other things. And what's going to happen to that building or any other building that you just abandon to build new buildings? Add to that, Harding is vacant now, the old Harding, just sitting there. You got Whittier School, Waltersville. You're just making new schools and leaving the other ones behind. And these are resources should be used for these minority communities.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for your extending this a little more. I really appreciate you listening to the community and not shutting people down. This is so, so important. You know, I just want to give you, each and every one of you, my city council card. I don't have my co-counsel Tyler Mack, but I think it's very, very important that you communicate with Councilman Tyler Mack and myself and others here who are of concern, because I feel that this conversation really, really needs to continue with the community, with this project being built. You guys are ready. And let me just say, with all due respect, I'm not blaming you guys here. And the previous people that were here, only one I know that was in the meeting, but it was not personal. It was just based on my knowledge of what happened, how this came about, and in other words, the way the money came about. But you know, the bad thing is here. My concern is my constituents and the area around it, which, like the lady said from the Freeman House, is majority black and brown population. And it seems like when they went about it, they disregarded the population there. It's like, we don't give a damn who's there. We're going to go ahead forward and do it. And if they drown, they drown. That's the attitude. That's my opinion. It's unfortunate. But however, what I want to do as a councilman is to build dialogue with whoever's involved, my co-counsel Tyler Mack, and my district DTC, who is Denise Teddemore, the DTC is here, the town committee that represent the district. We got Betsy, we got Emery, her husband, and Denise Teddemore is the district leader. And we must be involved because we have an obligation to keep our constituents informed in that area. Nothing personal. But the way this has been happening, I feel that we need to have much more conversation. So I'm gonna give you my card if you don't mind.
Could you give it right there to Arlene for me, please? Thank you.
And please, let's continue this conversation.
Thank you. And our last comment, sir.
Yes, I'm Joe DeGroat, the secondary vice president of the Bridgeport Teachers Union, and I just want to reiterate, or clarify, you said there were not enough places for the teachers of BMA and BASIC to be in one building?
So when they were talking about classrooms, they talked about separately how many classrooms are available for BMA. And as we know, BMA has 25 classrooms, and BASIC has. So there is not enough. If you take all the teachers from BMA and you take all the teachers from BASIC, and if they were to stay in their same classrooms now, there is not enough space to put all of those teachers in the same building. It is not on the current layout. That is correct.
The lady's question was, who's gonna stay and who's gonna go?
I can't answer that question now. That's 2.5 years away. I don't know who will be here or who will not be here. I can't answer those questions. I don't know who will choose to stay, who will choose to go. So I cannot tell you that.
But just wanted, you did say there is not enough.
I did, and it's accurate.
Okay, thank you.
So I wanted to recognize Mr. Joseph Kolovic, Ms. Bobby Brown, and Mr. Albert Benahan, who are here from the board. And I wanted to give them an opportunity if they wanted to say anything before we close this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Albert Benahan, the board member of the school. For the day one, I never agreed to have Boston High School and BMA together. They're two great schools. I'm very proud of each one of them. But like people say, the former superintendent, that he made a decision behind door. They never saw. I find out when I was like 1 year as a board member that he said that BMA and Boston High School will be together. Two different schools, two amazing schools. I love BMA, I love Boston High School. The principal they here, they know that. But we can help them separate. We can help them give it one program. And I'm not agree with that. So for so many reasons, you know, as Ms. Tommy Boy said, we need to do better for our school. I'm tired of being lie, and lie. And keep the line. My question is, where's the voice of the parents? Where's the voice of the students? Where's the voice of the teachers that want to speak but they cannot speak because they get scared? You know, we need to take care of our teachers. As a parent, before I leave there, I care about the staff because I know it's not easy what they're doing. It's a hard work they're doing, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm sorry, sometimes you like to speak and you cannot speak because you got a limit. Because the policy, because this, because that. No, me as a board member, I'm not here to be talking about policy and laws and everything. I'm here to listen to the staff. And I know they want to speak. I know they want to talk. And the parents like to speak. The students is our priority. That's what we're here for. So listen to students. Ms. Perrin, I would like to please, as a board member, you can do a survey for the students, parents, and staff. We like to hear what they have to say. Because they are very proud of me. They are working very hard to be sure a student receive great education. And remember, we are elected because of the community. We're not elected because we want to, or because the board, or because the city make decisions. We have to listen to our community. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Joseph Scalabit. I'm the longest serving board member in the room, and there's a little bit of history behind this. We do have a new administration, and we also got somewhat of a shift in the board. the last administration, last board leadership squashed public comments, squashed public debates. Those people are now gone. The new administration, they've got a new board chair. The board chair controlled the agenda completely and did not allow for these to be. I've asked for public forums, I've asked for these things to be scheduled over and over again. Went ahead and asked for this to be brought up on facilities several times, and it was not. Now, going forward, I think I can speak for everybody on the board and administration, saying, going forward, as we continue to build out BASIC and BMA, we will be hearing from the community, and we will keep you apprised of everything, and keep as few things out of the executive session as possible. Certain things that we're going to executive session for, such as if you want to get a piece of land or something, we don't want the price going up, or something, look at the build or something. There's things that logically got to go into executive session. If anybody's watched the board meetings where we vote the executive session, 9 times out of 10, no. But I think going forward, we'll have a lot more transparency and a lot more community input into how the new BASIC is built, how the new BASIC/BMA is built, and there was really no incorrect statements made here by the public about things that happened, and being as some things went behind closed doors in the executive session, even though I voted against it, I'm beholden to that. So, going forward, it's going to be a different story. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. And one more thing for the public, please, please, please. I know it's going to be hard to have a high school in the neighborhood. I know it's going to be hard to combine 2 schools. But when you're speaking, be mindful of our children. Our children in these schools are all the same. As a child is being a child, is fair child, real child. We have no problem with children. No such thing as a problem child. We have some children that have problems that need to be addressed, and they're all the same. So please, they watch this. They watch this and they hear how we talk about it. So we got to be very careful, especially in spaces like this. Please be mindful. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bobby Brown, the board chair, and I'm just going to echo both what Mr. Kolovic said in previous board meetings as well. This has really come from a sense of community collaboration and hearing the concerns that you all have brought before us. This opportunity has given us a chance to really right the wrongs. And we're going to try to do that with the support of each and every one of you that are here. I definitely want to look forward to more community forums and also to the community coming out as well. And yes, we can, the next session, we do plan to have it closer into the community. So the hopes of it so that we can have more participation and community involvement. Please continue to send your concerns. If we haven't seen them or if the board hasn't received them, definitely send them to Ms. Perrin, and so that we can be able to keep everyone informed. But the goal of this is to have everyone to say their piece, to find out what plans can be made, to also make sure that the students have their voice as well, because that's super important, because at the end of the day, even after we're gone in leadership, they will have to live with the building. They will have to be there. They will have to commute. But again, I have to stress this again, what Mrs. Sokolovic said. Our students are watching this. They do. They hear everything that's being said, and they're coming back, and I get letters, and I get emails, I get calls from parents that students heard what was taking place, and I don't want them to feel like it's us against them against us. I don't want that for Bridgeport Public School students at the end of the day. So I'm asking you all to just keep that in mind and continue to show up to all of the Board of Education meetings, all of them. If you can come to a committee meeting, if you can come to a regular board meeting, show up. Our job is to sit there and listen. The more you guys show up, the easier it is to make decisions, because we know that we want to make the best decision best for your students. So that's all that I would like to say, and good night, everyone.
I have one last comment this gentleman would like to say before I say good night. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, this was appointed to the DCC in Bridgeport at the 131st. I'm a Southland resident for 57 years. And again, I've learned from my history of my mother, Mark Stewart. And I guarantee you she'll be sitting right here, right now. Not just to going after the board members or the staff, just going after what's good for the students of Bridgeport Public Schools. So I thank you, and hopefully we do keep this inside our own community, not coming over this side of town, because I know there's a lot of South End people that doesn't have the transportation, that can walk over to Rosebud, go to Bassett, or Player School. So next time, be careful, and like I said, and Maria was here when she was on the board, when I brought a mirror out. And I always said, before you do anything, look in the mirror before you hurt the kids. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and God bless.
So thank you all for coming out. Please watch out and listen out for our next forum in regards to this contingent merger. Thank you and have a good evening.